Welcome back to DSR. Once again, we're diving into Crooked Moon. We're going to do the other wizard subclass called the Philosopher. Distill the essence of creation. Philosophers have focused their study of wizardry on the fundamental nature of existence and reality. They seek the most quintessential truths of creation and manipulation and manipulate those forces and substances through alchemical practice. Through understanding deconstruction and reconstruction, they master the natural energies of the world around them and alter it to their will. So this is going to be very much an alchemist wizard. So I expected to have some overlap with like the transmuter that also went this direction. And notice it's called the Philosopher. And the transmuter can one of their main features is an object called the Philosopher's Stone. I think they changed it to transmuter stone at one point, or maybe that's just the UA, or maybe I'm just remembering it wrong. But in Western Europe mythology, I'm going to call it mythology. That's probably not the right word. There was this idea of the first alchemist that came around, which was if you find the right kind of like substances to combine and right processes to refine them, you can turn lead into gold and like iron into silver, I want to say. And so that launched this whole effort of all these people who are kind of the predecessors to scientists, or maybe you could call them scientists that were just kind of like a little bit misguided on how they thought things worked. I mean, you know, we all have wrong ideas about how the world works until you figure it out, right? And we're still doing that today as a human race. So this actually was the birth of like modern chemistry, as they started to categorize things and try to achieve this transmutation. And I don't know how it came about, but at some point they determined, well, we need some sort of catalyst. And they decided to call that catalyst the Philosopher's Stone. And this catalyst was the supposed catalyst that was the missing component that they needed to actually achieve transmuting lead into gold and iron into silver. So they needed this transmuter or Philosopher's Stone. And you can see that that is the name of this, the Philosopher. And we're going to have abilities that allow us to transmute things like that. So level 3, alchemical knowledge. You gain a set of alchemist supplies. You have proficiency with it and can use it as an arcane focus. Additionally, you can use the alchemist supplies instead of the normal tool to craft a magic item. And that's a short little line, but if it does what I think it's saying, that means you can use your alchemist supplies to craft any magic item. In 5.5e, you need proficiency with like smith's tools to craft magical metal armor and smith tools to craft magical metal weapons and carpenter's tools or woodworker tools to craft like a staff and different wood objects. Like you have to have all these tool proficiencies if you want to craft those magic items. For this guy or gal, they can do everything with their alchemist supplies. So if your DM plays with magic item crafting and downtime, this is a very powerful feature. And if they don't play with it, this feature does nothing. Also at level 3, we have a feature called Quintessence. You have learned the fundamental process of dissolution. You know the dissolution cantrip. A creature or object you reduce to 0 hit points with the cantrip is destroyed. If the target was small or larger, it dissolves into a measure, 1 ounce, of crystalline powder called quintessence. All right, let's jump over to that cantrip and see how it works. Okay, here's the cantrip. It is a melee touch attack cantrip, does 1d8 force damage. And the rider effect is that the target's AC is reduced by 1, but only against the next attack roll made against it before the end of your next turn. So overall, I'd say this is kind of on the weaker end of cantrips. Like you have Chill Touch, that's also a melee touch cantrip, a melee attack cantrip, and that one's 1d10. Now, Force is a better damage type than Chill Touch, which is Necrotic, but Necrotic's a pretty good damage type. So I don't think this is a great cantrip on its own, right? I mean, yes, it's force damage, but between like just picking 2 or 3 different options, like get Firebolt for damage, get Acid Splash for acid damage, like between those two, you're pretty much good all the time anyway. I don't know that I would pick this one, but we get this one for free, and it's actually going to be a core part of the subclass. All right, back to the features. So we're creating, so the additional rider on top of the cantrip is this feature, which is if you reduce a creature or object to 0 hit points with this cantrip, it is completely destroyed. And then you potentially create, if the object or creature was small or larger, create a measure of quintessence. All right. So you can have a maximum amount of quintessence equal to twice your intelligence modifier at one time, minimum of 2 measures. If you create more, the oldest measure vanishes, and you can use quintessence. You're touching in the following ways. So I guess it has to be on you or in your hand or something like that. It says touching, and only when you need it. So as long as you have a hand free, I would say you could reach into your pouch of quintessence as part of casting a spell and do this. So material component, when you cast a spell, you can expend quintessence to serve as a spell's material component up to a value of 100 gold pieces per quintessence expended. Reagent, when you scribe a spell into your spellbook, or when you use alchemist supplies to craft a magic item, you can expend quintessence to serve as 50 gold pieces worth of materials for the task per quintessence expended. And vitriolic enhancement, when you cast a spell that deals damage, you can expend 1 quintessence as an additional material component to change 1 damage type this spell deals to force. So this is a cool idea, very thematic and mechanically actually quite impactful. I don't think they intended this, but this is OP because there's no limit to how much you can create. There's only a limit to how much you can have at one time. So you could create a bunch, and then when you cast the spell, you basically can cast a spell for free. And some spells, I guess, does this actually create the material component for you? It serves as a spell's material component. So maybe it's not so OP, depending on how you interpret this line. Because if it creates a material component and it's that material component that is reusable, right? Like the identify spell has a reusable pearl, 100 gold piece pearl. Can you expend quintessence and it creates the pearl? And now from then on, you always have that pearl available to you, or like the chromatic orb spell that has a 50 gold piece gem. If you create that gem and it's reusable, that gem is reusable for the spell. So if you create that gem, can you always cast that spell for free now, or do you keep having to use quintessence? So the more I think about it, actually, it says when you cast the spell, you replace the material component. So I don't know that this creates the object, the reusable object for you. It's just that casting is covered. So maybe this isn't as broken as I originally thought. But that's decent. And you can expend quintessence to serve as material component. So it doesn't say how much that like your per quintessence expended. So you're not limited on how many quintessences you expend. So if you have, I don't know, so let's say access to like greater restoration, which I think is a 500 gold piece cost or 100 gold piece cost. I can't remember. Let's say you have a 500 gold piece cost spell. You could expend 5 of these all at once and cover the cost of that spell. Okay, so this is actually a decent feature. This one, that would get used up during combat, right? But here's the problem. Between every single combat, you can just destroy an object as long as you're not pressed for time and create more quintessence, right? And it doesn't even have to be like actual separate objects. Like it could be rocks that are part of the walls, stones of the walls, stones of the ground, like a rock on near the trail you're walking on, a small tree, a shrub. Any of those things are, smaller, larger objects that you can just dissolve. I mean, even if they have a number, like a lot of hit points, you just keep going. It's a cantrip. There's no limited use. You just keep going until you dissolve the thing, and then you have more quintessence. So after every single combat, you recharge all of your quintessence. It's just a matter of, and it probably won't even take that long, right? We're talking a minute or 2 minutes to recharge all of your quintessence, which you usually have that kind of time between combats. And then you can also use this quintessence to pay for scribing spells into your spell book, which will save you a bunch of money. That's usually one of Wizards' like most expensive expenses they have to engage in. And in addition, you can use it to pay for the cost to craft magic items. That is super strong. You can expend quintessence to serve as 50 gold pieces worth of materials per quintessence expended. All right. So this one's going to require some math when you use it with magic items, right? With the spell book, that's easy because the math is done for you. It's 50 gold pieces worth of material for each spell level of the spell you're scribing into your book. So you basically just expend 1 quintessence per level of the spell you're scribing into your book, and then it's free. You still have to spend the 2 hours per spell, but the cost is gone. So even with a 9th level spell, you'd spend 9 quintessence, and by then you should definitely have a 20 intelligence, which means you have a cap of 10 quintessence at a time, which means, yes, you can scribe 9th level spells for free as well once you reach that point. Which is fine. It's going to save you a bunch of money. That's not going to be too OP. This one is the one I'm worried about. Crafting magic items. I think you can use this to basically make magic items free to craft for you. Free from a gold piece cost, not free from a downtime cost. And frankly, downtime is one of the most important factors for controlling creation of magic items. So if you're DM and you're thinking of maybe using magic item crafting and downtime in your campaign, maybe watch my video on downtime and crafting on how to like manage that so that it's still fun and useful, but it doesn't break your game. Because if you put no controls on it, yes, the players can just break your game. Done. So yeah, watch that video. All right. So the math would be, it takes a certain number of days to craft, and that's what it's going to come down. I don't know if the days even matters, right? Because throughout the day, you can just be dissolving more objects into quintessence to just create as much quintessence as you need throughout the day. Yeah, to just make your magic item free. So even you could craft even legendary items for free. Now it's still going to take like a year of downtime to craft a legendary item, but it won't cost you the, what is it, 200,000 gold piece cost? Yeah, I think it's 200,000. So I don't know. This is maybe S. If your DM plays with like magic item downtime and crafting, this is S tier. If they don't play with it, this is A tier. So pretty good. And then this one, changing, you can just change the damage type. Actually, I don't think we read it. So vitriolic enhancement, when you cast a spell that deals damage, you can expend one quintessence as an additional material component to change one damage type the spell deals to force. So I don't know. You might say like, is that powerful or not? I don't know. Is it that powerful? What is the number one problem with poison spray? Yeah, because it's got a 30-foot range. It's an attack roll, which are both good things. I mean, 30, ideally it's more than 30-foot range, but 30-foot range is usually enough most of the time. It does 1d12 damage, which is one of the highest. It is tied for the highest damage type that can be dealt by a cantrip. Or sorry, damage die. The problem is it's poison damage, which is one of the worst damage types to try to deal, right? Because like 20% of monsters are immune to poison damage. Well, you can just turn by paying one quintessence, turn poison spray into force damage, and now you have a 1d12 attack roll force damage spell, cantrip that you can use at will. And it only costs you one quintessence to do that. And like I said, between every combat, you can just easily recharge all of your quintessences. Yeah, so that's strong, and and that's just poison spray. You can do this on fireball. You can do this on lightning bolt. You can do this on like anything, right? Uh, Now it does use the grammatical construction that says when you cast a spell that deals damage, so you can only change the damage type in the turn of the spell of the in the same turn that you cast the spell. So if it's a recurring damage spell, the recurring damage later is not changed. So like Cloud Kill, you could change the initial damage when you cast a spell on that turn. I'm trying to remember, does Cloud Kill deal damage when it appears? Let's do Wall of Fire just to make sure that I'm using a spell correctly. So Wall of Fire deals damage when it appears, and then recurring damage on later turns, right? So when you cast Wall of Fire in the turn it appears, yes, you can use your quintessence to change the damage that turn to force, but the remaining damage on all remaining turns is going to be fire. Still, this is a very powerful feature, and this is the only one we get at level 3, but they're starting off as a banger. This is quite strong. Level 6, albedo or albedo. I'm not sure which it is. And I don't even know what that word means. I'll have to look that one up. If you know it, put it in the comments. You can purify your quintessence to amplify your spells. When you cast a spell using a spell slot, you can expend one quintessence as a material component to increase the level of the spell slot by 1 up to a level 9. The maximum quintessence you can expend it in this way on a given spell is half your proficiency bonus rounded up. So at level 6, your proficiency bonus is 3, which means half rounded up is 2. So, and your maximum spell slot is 5. Yeah, and this is the maximum amount of quintessence you can expend, not the maximum level you can upcast it to. So that's not a good thing. This is OP, right? Because that means at level 3 you can be upcasting your spells without increasing the spell slot because you don't even have spell slots higher than level 3. Sorry, when you're level 5, you have third level spell slots. You can, sorry, when you're level 6, because you got to have this feature. So you're level 6, you have third level spell slots. You can expend 2 quintessence and make it a 5th level spell instead of a 3rd level spell, and you're still level 6. Or when you are level 13, your proficiency bonus is 5, half rounded up is 3. And when you're level 13, you have 7th level spell slots, but you could expend 2 quintessence and make it a 9th level spell, which means you can be like uh, take your 6th level spells like Summon Fiend, which is a 6th level summon spell, and spend 3 quintessence, make it a 9th level summon spell, and then it's got 4 attacks and all the other features of being a 9th level creature. And it's not even a big deal that you're expending that quintessence because, like I said, between every combat, you just spend a minute or two destroying things, dissolving things, and you now have max quintessence again. I don't know. It's this thing is definitely S, maybe S1. Let's keep going. Level 10, Citrinitis. Citrinitis. You can now manipulate quintessence to create, not merely to purify. You always have the creation and fabricate spells prepared. Cool. And you can cast each spell once without expending a spell slot. That's fine. These are, situational spells that can be fun. And for creative players, they get a lot more mileage out of it. For non-creative players or less creative players, they are not very useful. Regaining the ability to do so when you finish a long rest. Okay. When you cast a spell using this feature, you can cast a spell as an action rather than its normal casting time. Okay. That makes it way more useful. Far less, knowledge. You don't need nearly as much, um, head time or time in advance to know that you're going to need the thing to cast these things because you can do it right in the middle of combat as an action. Now it says when you cast a spell using this feature, which means I think it's referring to that free casting. You can also cast a spell normally using spell slots of the appropriate level, which is unnecessary since it says you have these spells prepared. As long as you have these spells prepared, by default, you can always cast them now using any spell slots you have. But, it doesn't hurt to be extra explicit. Then additionally, when you cast creation, you can expend a number of quintessence up to your intelligence modifier, minimum of 1, to multiply the spell's duration by 1 plus the amount expended. Okay, that's fine. That's fine. So this is an interesting and creative feature. But their first non like S tier feature. So this one's fun and this one's fine. But overall, we're because of our level 3 and level 6 features, and those things just scale up with us. This thing's still at least S tier. Moving on to level 14, Rubedo. Gonna add all kinds of words to our vocabulary now. The culmination of your great work. You can now distill your perfected knowledge of existence into physical form. When you finish a short or long rest, you can expend 10 quintessence, which is probably your max, to create a Philosopher's Stone. There it is. A translucent red crystal. The stone is a tiny magical object with AC 19, hit points 20, and immunity to all damage except force. If you create a second Philosopher's Stone, the first one vanishes. Okay. While you carry the stone, it grants the following benefits. Amplification. When you cast a spell, you can expend up to 2 quintessence as an additional material component to increase your spell save DC for that spell by the same amount. Yeah, super S tier. Equivalent exchange. When you fail a saving throw, you can take a reaction to expend 5 quintessence to succeed on the save instead. Okay. Longevity. You stop aging and don't suffer any effects from old age, including dying from it. Yeah, that was a common belief about the Philosopher's Stone in the Western European mythology. So not surprised to see that there at all. And of course, you saw this thing in Harry Potter, right? They named the first book. So she named the first book The Philosopher's Stone, but then the publisher forced her to change it to Sorcerer's Stone before it was published in like America because they thought the Americans wouldn't get it or the kids weren't familiar with the mythology of the Philosopher's Stone, and then they wanted it to sound more magical, so they forced her to rename it to Sorcerer's Stone. But then you actually find what's his name? Oh, I can't forget that guy's name, who is actually a real character from history, a French alchemist. Oh, I can't remember his name. Anyway, his name is referenced in that first book. He's actually a character. He's that super super old character in the story of the prequel stories, the prequel movies. So anyway, he's in that one, and yes, that's why he's super old. Is because he's been using the Philosopher's Stone, right? Anyway, sympathy. The stone counts as part of your body for the purposes of the scrying spell and for spells that restore you to life if you die. The stone itself serves as a material component for the spell, if any, and is destroyed when the spell is cast. I don't get that one. It counts as part of your body for the purposes of the scrying spell? Why would you scry on yourself? Maybe it's because you can leave the stone in another place and then automatically succeed on scrying in that location? I guess. And for spells that restore you to life if you die. Does that mean if you die and are restored to life, the stone is restored? And the stone itself serves as the material component for the spell, if any, and is destroyed when the spell is cast. I don't get those two together, right? If the stone is destroyed and is going to be restored with you, then it can't exist for you to use it as a material component. But if it still exists, but you're dead, I guess then you can use the stone as a material component. So that's like Raise Dead has a 500 gold piece cost. Resurrection has like a 5,000 gold piece cost, and True Resurrection has like a 20,000 gold piece cost. So the stone would pay for those, and then the stone is destroyed, but you can just recreate it on your next short or long rest. And it doesn't matter that it costs 10 quintessence because, like I said, outside of combat, you just dissolve things until you have 10 again in like a couple of minutes. And then we have a table for flavor, which is great. I love this kind of stuff. Like I've said many times, I am not the most creative storyteller. I'm, create a good, creative problem solver. That's where all my creativity manifests. I'm good with like analyzing mechanics and memorizing mechanics and things like that. Not great with storytelling. That's something I actually have to work hard at to get better at. And I still don't even think I'm great at it. I've just improved to be okay at it. So this kind of stuff is gold for me. So, what is your philosophical pursuit? Someone close to you is lost in time, the planes, or some other esoteric state of being. Unraveling the nature of reality is your path to finding them. You suffered a debilitating ailment or injury and turned to the study of magic to deconstruct the impairment's nature and transmute it. Your teacher was killed by a rival philosopher, and you must learn all you can of that discipline to protect yourself and bring them to justice. The rediscovered research of a missing mage unlocked the first secrets of your understanding, but contains many more you can't yet decipher. Wizardry provides a path to immense power, but you know an even greater state of being awaits your ascension. Interesting. You encountered a material with miraculous properties, and you can't rest until you discover the secrets of its creation. Your sibling's soul was separated from their body in a spell gone wrong, and you cannot forgive yourself until you make them whole again. Like Full Metal Alchemist, right? That's the whole theme of that whole anime. You are a stage performer who wowed audiences with magical acts, and you seek the ultimate magic trick to become a legend. Okay, that's like the Prestige, right? Yeah, that movie, The Prestige, with Christian Bale and Hugh Jackman. All right, you come from an impoverished hometown and wish to utilize the transmutation of metals to bring prosperity to your community. There you go, turning lead into gold and iron into silver. In your pursuit to be closer to the gods, you have sought the secrets of creating new life forms in your own image. Okay. You were raised to revere the four elements, and you hypothesize that mastering the stuff of existence will bring harmony to them all. And the four elements is a Western European mythological idea, right? Earth, air, fire, water, which is what most of D&D, the core of D&D, is based on. But in like Asian culture, or at least Chinese culture, I'm not sure if it's just Chinese or Asian, there's 5 elements, and it's water, air, fire, wood, metal. Yeah, I think it's those 5. So if you're playing like, and of course flavor is free, right? So if you're playing like a wizard from that culture, just, changes and say, yeah, of course it's the 5 elements, right? Then you had aspirations of joining the military and rising through the ranks, believing that the magic of reality can be used as a weapon of war, which, yeah, with your mechanics, definitely can be. All right, time to rank the sucker, and yes, S tier, you guessed it. It might be S1. I want to see it in gameplay before I make that determination, but it's at least an S. And I think it's equally an S if you like dip 3 levels to get this level, just the level 3 features. Those alone are pretty strong, even stronger if your DM plays with downtime and crafting. Basically, the ability to have like free material components is a big deal. The reagent thing is not applicable if you're not a wizard, but you were still a level 3 wizard, right? So that's going to help you. You just put every, first and second level wizard spell into your spell book for free. But then again, if your DM plays with downtime and magic item crafting, that's S tier right there. And then the ability to just change any damage. This isn't limited to wizard spells you cast, it's any spell you cast. So that alone is a very powerful incentive to go 3 levels dip on this thing, even if you're like, and this isn't tied to your intelligence modifier, other than the fact that it's your maximum number of quintessences you can have at a time. And you only need to spend 1 to change damage type to force. So even if you have like an intelligence of 13, that means you're going to have a cap of 2 quintessences at a time, but you can just restore that in like 30 seconds after every combat. And then even like if you're a druid or a cleric or sorcerer or something like that, you want to blast, just changing all of your spells to force damage, like or at least 2 spells per combat to force damage, pretty good. So yeah, this one with all these features is going to get an S for range damage dealing because you can change the damage type and you can increase upcast the spells for very little cost. You can be increasing the spell save DZ on these things. So S for blaster as well, S for controller, S for a self buff between magic item crafting and all these things you're doing to making yourself more powerful. A for survival, right? The ability to just get legendary resistance like twice per combat is crazy, crazy good. But it's at level 14, so they're going to get an A for survival overall. I do think that creation and fabric have ways, and being able to cast those as an action instead of the full casting time. There are plenty of ways to help with survival for that, both in combat and out of combat. Yeah, these are very powerful, right? And fabricate's the kind of thing where you could just craft plate armor in 1 hour, or with this ability, craft plate armor in 1 minute. Now at level 10, that's not quite as a big deal as you might think, because the marshals in the party already have plate armor probably by this point, so it's not that useful. Except the fact that you can just be crafting plate armor and selling them for money. Now you have to have raw materials equal to the cost of what it would take to make that thing. So you need 750 gold pieces worth of raw materials of metal and other things needed for plate armor to craft the plate armor. But you can craft it. Sorry, you need 750 gold pieces worth of materials. But then once you craft it in an hour, you can sell it for 1,500 gold pieces, or depending on how your DM handles, selling things. Now DMs don't let them just do this infinitely, where like, oh, I'm gonna, cast that like 6 times a day, and then I'll make, 750 gold pieces times 6 every day. Okay, DMs, this is where you got to apply some, common sense and say like, well, this is a village of like 50 people. Nobody has enough money to buy even one plate armor, and even in like a big city, there's only so many people who are looking for plate armor on any given day and have the money to buy it, right? So apply that kind of logic to it. Even in Waterdeep, I wouldn't say you're going to find 6 people every day to buy plate armor. In fact, what I would do is have the player make like some combination, probably a skill challenge involving like persuasion and investigation. Um, Maybe a third skill where they roll all of those, and depending on the roll, how many of those succeed, that's how many they're able to sell that day. Would be a way to limit it. That's probably what I would do. And then change the DC based on the population size of wherever they are. If there's 1 million people, then the DC might be 10. If there's only 500 people, the DC might be 30, because 500 people probably don't have that much. That's not a big enough economy for anybody to have that much money sitting around and also happen to be looking for plate armor that they're willing to blow that much money on. Anyway, this is an S tier subclass overall. Here it is in the context of the other partner classes and subclasses I've ranked. So far, we're up to 71 of them. And I don't even think we're halfway there. So at least even from just the books I've chosen to be working on right now. Anyway, you can see Crooked Moon is pretty solid on the mechanics. Nothing less than an A. And this is going to be the second S tier one. Like I said in the last video on Crooked Moon, there is a single S1. That's the Pestilence, where they went too hard on that one. And the Sinner, that one's borderline, maybe S, maybe S1. So they've dialed in the mechanics pretty well. That's it for this one. Thanks for watching. Remember, if you don't have enough D&D in your life, you can look at the video description and find a link to join my Discord. Find me on Start Playing Games if you want to play with me, or you can find a link to the Google Drive that has this Google Sheet that has everything in it that I've ever rated. And you can just access it. It's publicly accessible. You don't have to do anything to get access to it. Just click that link, I guess, and then access the Google Sheet. You'll have to make a copy of it yourself if you want to like filter and sort it, or you can just look at it, as I have it. It's not quite as useful if you don't filter and sort though, so I recommend making a copy. Although I do update it like daily, so you'll have to get a new copy every day, or every time you make a character at least, right? All right. And if you are the kind of person that, analyzing things and mechanics and numbers comes easily to you, and you always have thoughts about, how things function and ideas on, rating things yourself, I would love your help. Yeah. Give me comments if you think I got one of these things wrong, or if I missed something and you think that this rating should be different, or if you want to join my server and engage in even more in-depth discussions about these ratings and adjusting things to make them more correct and more valuable for people. I would love that. I have a channel on my Discord dedicated to just that. And the more people that weigh in, the better this thing is. So I would love some help. And remember also that D&D is a game, and the only point of it is to have fun with your friends, right? There's literally no other point. So be cool when you play D&D, please. All right. Catch you next time.